The existence beyond the world spoke again. You are smaller than before. The meaning settled against Lin Fan's awareness without sound, but it carried weight. Not pressure. Measurement. It passed through the frame of his identity, touched every remaining memory, every burned edge, every deliberate scar left by his own choices, and returned without judgment. Lin Fan did not answer at once. He examined the space instead. Space was the wrong word, but no better one remained. The colorless light had arranged itself into a chamber because his mind required boundaries to resist madness. There were no walls, yet he understood enclosure. There was no floor, yet his awareness held position. Around him, impossible geometry folded and unfolded in slow patterns, each shift revealing glimpses of things that should not fit inside any single perception. A mountain range curled inside a drop of light. A dead star hung from a thread of black glass. A river flowed upward through a field of human eyes and vanished into a closed book. Countless worlds appeared and disappeared like bubbles beneath ice. Lin Fan recognized none of them. That did not bother him. Recognition was not required for analysis. At the center of the chamber was the observer. It had no body. Because Lin Fan needed something to face, his awareness tried to give it one. The attempt failed repeatedly. For a breath, it seemed like a robed figure without features. Then a vertical eye larger than a moon. Then a ring of pale hands. Then a black mirror. Then nothing again. Each shape was not the observer, only the wound left in his perception when he tried to understand it. Lin Fan stopped trying. He held to the idea of an opponent. That was sufficient. An opponent did not need hatred. A storm could be an opponent. A plague could be an opponent. A cultivation bottleneck could be an opponent. Anything that constrained his path deserved to be studied as if it had intention, because treating danger as mindless often made men careless. The observer had no aura to suppress. No killing intent to read. No breath rhythm, no soul fluctuation, no karmic scent. If Lin Fan judged by ordinary methods, he would have to conclude it was not there at all. But the chamber existed around its attention. That was enough proof. He searched for asymmetry. Every being, no matter how vast, revealed something through what it chose to ignore. The observer ignored his injuries, his hatred, his dead body, and the karmic storm that had destroyed him. It focused instead on the fact that he remained coherent after being reduced. So coherence was the first currency here. You reduce quickly, the observer said. You speak as if decay is surprising after you helped place a chain through my soul. The chamber stilled. Lin Fan had no mouth, yet his meaning took the shape of speech. He chose words deliberately. Words were tools of limitation. Limitation could create leverage. The observer turned its attention more fully upon him. Helped, it repeated. Images unfolded around Lin Fan. He saw Ch08 kneeling before a sealed altar beneath a ruined moon. He saw a shard of black jade hovering above the altar, its surface blank until Ch08 cut his palm and fed its soul blood. He saw Xianxia standing alone before the heavenly void lower seals, eyes closed, hairpin trembling in her hand. He saw distant enemies placing offerings into basins of red fire. He saw the heavenly slaughter formation assembling itself across years, one hidden contribution at a time. Then he saw the black chain. It did not descend from the observer's hand. It emerged from a crack the formation had opened unknowingly when too many contradictory karmic forces were compressed into a single judgment. The black jade shard Ch08 used had not contained the chain. It had contained a coordinate. A scratch on the skin of the world. Ch08, ambitious and terrified, had mistaken it for inheritance. The hidden contributors had mistaken it for a strengthening core. Xianxia had never seen it at all. The observer had not pushed the chain through. It had noticed the crack and looked in. Its gaze became the chain. Lin Fan understood. Observation is contact. The light around him shifted. Approximate, the observer said. You watched because the formation created a rare state. Yes. You did not care whether I lived or died. No. But when I marked the chain, I created a second rare state. The chamber brightened by a fraction. Yes. Lin Fan filed away every answer. The observer did not lie in the ordinary sense. That did not mean it was honest. A mountain did not lie when it crushed a village. A flood did not lie when it drowned a field. Inhuman truth could still kill. What do you want? Want, the observer repeated. The meaning spread outward and rearranged half the chamber. The dead star became a seed. The upward river became a vein. The closed book opened and showed blank pages, each page containing a world that had not yet occurred. Want is imprecise. Use a precise term. The observer paused. Experiment. Lin Fan's awareness sharpened. There it was. Not mercy. Not fate. Not compensation from heaven for a life of suffering. Experiment. The word cleaned the chamber. Mercy would have been disgusting. Fate would have been suspect. Compensation would have implied a judge, and Lin Fan had no interest in kneeling before anyone who pretended to balance scales after the blood had dried. Experiment was colder, simpler, and less hypocritical. It meant there was no moral debt between them unless one was created later by force. It also meant the observer needed a condition it did not fully control. No one experimented on what they already understood. Lin Fan pressed that fact into the center of his remaining awareness. Whatever this existence was, whatever height it occupied beyond world and realm, it had looked at him and found uncertainty. That uncertainty was small. Perhaps smaller than a mote of dust before a sun. But it existed. Small openings had killed larger enemies than this one knew. He preferred that. Experiments had conditions. Conditions had gaps. Gaps could be used. I am the subject? One subject. There are others. The observer did not answer immediately. The silence was answer enough. Lin Fan felt a thin edge of satisfaction. The world beyond the world was already less pure than it pretended. Multiple subjects meant comparison. Comparison meant desired results. Desired results meant failure was possible. Possible failure was leverage. The observer's geometry turned. You resist dissolution. You preserve identity under terminal judgment. You mark observer contact from within collapse. You discard self-components selectively. You prioritize future retaliation beyond survival instinct. Each statement appeared around him as a line of cold script. The script did not belong to any language, but meaning entered him directly. Lin Fan listened. You are unsuitable for peace. Peace is usually a name the strong give to arrangements that benefit them. You are unsuitable for obedience. Correct. You are unsuitable for trust. Trust is an unsecured loan. The chamber stilled again. Then, for the first time, Lin Fan sensed something almost like interest sharpening into focus. You define trust economically. Everything living does. Most are too sentimental to admit it. The observer displayed Ch08. Not her body on heavenly void peak. A memory construction. She stood under snow, younger by centuries, smiling faintly at something Lin Fan had said in another life. The image was flawless. Snow gathered in her hair. A cup of warm wine steamed between her hands. Behind her, Ch08 trained in a courtyard, too young then to hide when Lin Fan passed. The observer placed the image before him like an offering. This was not economic. Lin Fan looked at it. The image should have stirred something. Perhaps it did, somewhere in the ruins of what he had burned. But feeling a thing and obeying it were different. It was investment, habit, and controlled tolerance. The Ch08 image turned toward him. Her eyes held the expression she used to wear before she fully understood him. The observer asked, if restored, would you choose differently? Yes. The chamber brightened. Lin Fan continued, I would identify the betrayal earlier, extract the hidden coordinate, and kill the outside contributors before the formation matured. The image of Su-wan dissolved. The observer did not react emotionally. It had none. Yet the geometry shifted with renewed attention. You do not seek moral revision. I seek effective revision. You do not regret. Regret without change is indulgence. Regret with change is strategy. I have no need for the first. The observer showed Ch08 next. The disciple appeared as a child, soaked in battlefield rain, ribs broken, eyes defiant. Then as a youth gripping a sword until his palms bled. Then as a man standing beneath heavenly void peak, left eye destroyed, seal burning in his chest. The three versions overlapped. If restored, would you save him? From the battlefield? All points. Lin Fan understood the trap in the phrasing. Save was not defined. A sentimental answer would reveal attachment. A cruel answer would reveal rigidity. The observer was not searching for kindness. It was searching for pattern. I would use him if useful, Lin Fan said. Destroy him if dangerous. Avoid creating a weapon with unresolved ownership. The child Ch08 stared at him with rainwater and blood running down his face. Lin Fan stared back. The image dissolved. You are consistent. You sound disappointed. Disappointment is inapplicable. Then you are poorly imitating conversation. Conversation is an interface. A poor one leaks intent. All interfaces leak. Then continue leaking. For a moment, the chamber held no movement at all. Lin Fan could not tell whether the observer understood mockery as mockery, or whether it only catalogued the pattern of resistance. Either outcome had value. If it understood, then it possessed a model of insult. If it did not, then language could still be used to create uneven exchanges. The chamber's geometry stopped. For an instant, everything around Lin Fan vanished except the observer's focus. The weight of it pressed against his identity so sharply that the frame he had built began to crack. He felt pieces of himself peel at the edges, a cultivation insight, the map of an ancient ruin, the tone of Su-wan's voice when she said his name before betrayal. Lin Fan did not retreat. He compressed further and sharpened the only thing that mattered. Lin Fan. Unfinished. The pressure ceased. The observer spoke. Provocation under asymmetry. Risk accepted for information. You could have erased me. Yes. You did not. No. Then the information had value. Yes. Lin Fan would have smiled if he still owned lips. The exchange clarified the board. The observer was powerful enough to erase him, but erasure was not its current objective. It preferred response. It measured not only what he was, but what he chose under constraints. That meant it might offer constraints. The chamber opened around him. Countless lights appeared in the distance. Each light contained a thread. Some were dim, some bright, some already broken. Lin Fan understood without being told that these were possible continuations. Not futures exactly. Futures were branches from a living point. These were imposed returns, inserted variables, revisions through cracks in time and causality. Most threads rejected him. His fragment was too damaged. His original power too incompatible. His karmic load too heavy. If pushed into the wrong point, he would dissolve, distort, or become something less useful than death. One thread, however, burned with a cold violet hue. Lin Fan recognized the texture before the image formed. His own soul. Younger. Incomplete. Still mortal enough to be rewritten. The thread opened. He saw a wooden room with cracked beams. Dawn leaking through paper windows. A thin blanket. A 16-year-old body with weak meridians, low-grade spirit root, and a future everyone in Azure Cloud sect had already decided was worthless. Lin Fan's awareness stilled. The observer watched him watch. The image sharpened. He saw a courtyard crowded with outer disciples. A stone platform. A testing pillar. Xianxia laughing with 2 lackeys at his side. Lin Fan, 16 years old, walking toward humiliation because he had not yet learned how completely weakness invited teeth. Memory returned in a cold line. The spirit root test. The scene was small enough to discuss the remnants of his former pride. After Heavenly Void Peak, after kneeling emperors and shattered immortal clans, after battles that changed the maps of entire realms, the path offered to him was a damp wooden room, a weak body, and a public test where children waited to learn how much contempt the sect would assign them. It would have been insulting if insult mattered. Lin Fan looked longer. Small beginnings had advantages large stages did not. No one guarded a useless outer disciple as if he carried the memory of a sovereign. No one hid ancient inheritances from a boy they believed too poor to buy medicine. No one watched the bottom of the board carefully until pieces began disappearing from above. Humiliation was camouflage if the humiliated man did not believe in it. And Lin Fan had stopped believing in humiliation long ago. Only consequences remained real. Consequences could be shaped. Shapes could become weapons. The day everything began. Not the day of first cultivation. Earlier. The day he learned how sex measured human value openly and called it fairness. The observer let the scene hang before him. Lin Fan examined the body. Weak. Underfed. Scarred from outer disciple bullying. Meridians narrow but not irreparable. Spirit root low-grade on the surface, with a hidden imbalance caused by early poison exposure. No resources. No allies worth naming. No authority. Excellent. Small pieces could move unnoticed. In his first life, he had clawed upward like a starving man breaking through ice, noisy because he believed noise proved he was alive. This time, he would not need the world to hear the first cracks. Let Azure Cloud Sect sleep. Let Elder Gu dismiss him. Let Xianxia laugh loudly enough to cover the sound of his own future being cut apart. The observer spoke. This point accepts insertion. Why this point? High divergence potential. Low resistance. Strong origin continuity. Multiple future nodes accessible. Betrayal variables remain distant. Observation yield significant. You want to see what changes if I begin again? Yes. And if I refuse? The chamber showed darkness behind him. Not punishment. Result. His fragment would continue reducing until the frame failed. Without body, realm, or anchor, he would eventually lose identity. Perhaps not immediately. Perhaps after a span that could not be measured in time. But dissolution was inevitable. Lin Fan accepted the information without reaction. What are the constraints? The observer's focus sharpened. Now the true conversation began.